People watching the main television channel last night in Russia, Channel 1, I think it was.
Yeah, it was, which is the main bulletin.
The most watched bulletin. We can show a clip of that now, of this brave journalist, a producer at the network, standing up behind there, holding up a sign saying, "No war." Charlie, what do you make of that?
Well, it's extraordinary and brilliant to see. But to what extent do we know the people in Russia, how are they receiving this message? You know, it's very unclear for us to know to what extent Putin has support from his own people. I mean, there are so many commentators and foreign policy analysts telling us that Putin is overwhelmed with opposition in the country and there are thousands of arrests, etc. But I mean, I'm not sure I buy this entirely. I think a significant portion of the Russian population, while they are enduring propaganda, do support this incursion. And we have to not lose sight of that and remember that actually he does have quite a lot of support.
I wonder, at what point do sanctions whittle down that support? You're always playing such a tight game when it comes to sanctions. Arguably, the sanctions that were imposed in 2014, light comparatively as they were, may well have rallied the Russian people to the cause of Putin, sort of saw it as Russia against the world. Do you think, Michael Fabricant, it could be different this time?
Well, it's certainly Putin's narrative at the moment. He's saying, and commentators are saying in Russia, that this is actually the West trying to defend a fascist regime in the Ukraine, and this is Russia's fight, and we've got to make sacrifices. But you've got to bear in mind that the oligarchs who support Putin are really hurting. And eventually, it won't just be the loss of McDonald's. I remember queuing up in the 1980s in Pushkin Square in the old Soviet Union for a McDonald's. And they've been there. It was the only way I could get any decent meat. And that was through a McDonald's.
When did the first McDonald's open?
I think it was about 1988, 89. It was something like that. It couldn't be a United States McDonald's. In fact, they had big maple leaves everywhere to show it was actually a Canadian franchise to demonstrate that it wasn't the great Satan, the United States, coming into Pushkin Square in the middle.
Ever since 1988-89, there's been McDonald's
and many
Russia
more branches.
And in the USSR.
Something like 350.
And now, for the first time in over 30 years, that's gone away. That's quite a moment.
And not just that, but also luxury items. So many shops have been closing for sale. People are beginning to see what's going on. Now, as I said earlier, it's partly being presented that it's the West being evil and rotten and trying to stop Putin's liberation. But as I said, I want to keep repeating myself, but 40% now of Russians, apparently, according to this survey, are saying, this war is wrong. And it will grow. Don't forget, only a week ago, on one of the most popular programs, again on Channel 1, the main television channel, you had normally loyal people on this discussion program, have to be loyal, otherwise they wouldn't be allowed on, with two of them saying this is going to be another Afghanistan. Another one saying this is...
You must be incredibly brave, Charlie Peters, to say something like that. How many, if it is 40%, it must be very hard to poll the Russian people at this moment. But if it is 40%, how many of that 40% would actually put their head above the parapet and voice their concern?
Absolutely. And I think the display we saw last night on Channel 1 News will, I think, inspire more people to take that stand and risk arrest in public. It only takes one person, I think, to do an extraordinary act of free speech, of expression against a dictatorial leader, that inspire masses to do the same. But really, I don't think, just coming on your past discussion about sanctions, I think this war is going to be won by the number of body bags returning to Russia, or news of deaths. It will not be won, I think, by crippling economic situations behind Russian borders. If there is any country in Europe that has had experience over the last 50 years of looking after its own as the world isolates it, it's probably Russia, right? And so they will endure that and withdraw from Western support. But there's only so much that can be done when thousands and tens of thousands of Russian men are being killed over the line.